What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another review. This time we're taking a look at the classic, that is Frankenstein, directed by James Whale, starring Boris Karloff. Now, 1931's Frankenstein is one of those seminal monster movies from the Universal lineup. This was the follow up to Dracula. So pretty much the answer to Dracula was Frankenstein, and originally Bela Lugosi was supposed to play the monster. And when you look back now, thankfully, Lugosi did not take the role because how can you watch this movie and picture Lugosi and not Boris Karloff? Boris Karloff as the Frankenstein monster gives a nuanced and just mesmerizing performance. This movie is held together by Boris Karloff. Not to say that his supporting cast is any bad, because they're not. This movie is chock full of a really good cast. But the anchor is Boris Karloff. If his performance as the monster did not work, this movie would have not worked whatsoever. Like I said, he gives a very rich, nuanced performance that when you're watching it, you can see these little intricacies that Boris Karloff does, these little movements, these subtle little motions. Karloff gives a it's a silent performance, and it's basically just all facial expressions and body language. And Karloff is just a master at bringing the Frankenstein monster to life. Uh, Probably the most infamous scene and probably the best scene in this movie is when the monster is interacting with this little girl named Maria, and you really see the childlike innocence that the monster has, and you're charmed by the scene. Of course, the scene quickly turns to tragedy when the monster accidentally kills the little girl because he doesn't know any better. And again, Boris Karloff's performance is fantastic. He can be childlike and innocent in scenes like that, and then he can be menacing when he's being antagonized by the hunchback Fritz, played by Dwight Fry, and when he's being chased by an angry mob because of what happened to the little girl. Like I said, all around, fantastic performance by Boris Karloff. Now, let's get on to the supporting cast. Let's talk about Henry Frankenstein, who is another vital part of this movie, who was played by Colin Clive. I thought Colin Clive as Henry Frankenstein gave an outstanding performance as well. He is the ambitious mad scientist, but he also has a conscience, and he's not evil. He's not doing things out of evil need. He's doing things out of the wonderment of science and pushing the boundaries of scientific limitations. And of course, at first, when he creates the Frankenstein monster, he pretty much says that he knows what it feels like to be God because he just created life from just salvaged human remains and dead body parts. And he made this living thing through the use of electricity. And of course, once the monster goes on the loose and he realizes what he's done, he is completely horrified by his experiments. And of course, this is affecting his life. It's affecting his relationship with his soon-to-be wife, played by Mae Clark, Elizabeth. It's affecting that. It's affecting the relationships all around him, like with his father, like with Dr. Waldman. His whole life has been consumed by this has been consumed by this experiment. And I like how James Well explored that a little bit. We get a chance to get inside the head of Henry a little bit. Like we understand that he's not doing these things out of evilness. He's doing these things out of scientific wonderment. And when he goes too far, he feels remorse and guilt for what he's done because he did not only push the limitations, he did not understand the full extent of what he done. And like I said, I thought Colin Clive did an outstanding performance at bringing the character of Henry Frankenstein to life. He made him overly ambitious, but he made him into a sympathetically likable character as well, and I enjoyed it. You have Edward von Sloan, who plays Dr. Waldman, who is the teacher of Henry Frankenstein. Von Sloan, he's good in the movie, though Waldman gets killed off near the end. And not only that, Waldman as a character doesn't really bring much to the movie, to be honest with you. As I mentioned before, Dwight Fry plays the character of Fritz. Dwight Fry was in Dracula. We put on an outstanding performance as Renfield, and I enjoyed his performance as Fritz. Though I think the movie kind of kills him off a little too quickly. However, I do like how Fritz is just a dick to the monster, constantly torturing him. And when the monster does attack Fritz, you do feel a sense of joy when the monster when Fritz gets come up as for being a schmuck. So that was actually pretty cool. And Dwight Fry did a good job, like he always does. He's a very talented character actor. Mae Clark, who played Elizabeth, I thought she played her role really, really well. Though I think her acting could be a little flat in some areas, and and I thought her on screen chemistry with Colin Clive was solid. Nothing remarkable, just solid. There's another character in this movie called Victor, who is a friend to both Henry and Elizabeth. Now the movie implies that Victor is in love with Elizabeth, but to this movie's credit, it didn't do a love triangle because once things start to kick in, Victor is pretty much trying to help Henry restrain and make them and destroy the monster. So I like how James Whale didn't dive into a unnecessary love triangle, which would have eaten up too much movie time. Because this movie, it's not about a love triangle. This movie is about the monster. It's about Boris Karloff and seeing this monster come to life. And that's where this movie really excels. And it just so happens to have human characters that we grow to appreciate and like as well. Now, from a production standpoint, I thought this movie is beautifully looking. James Whale did a fantastic job of just creating this gothic, creepy, suspenseful atmosphere. The opening of this movie takes place during a funeral, and it already sets the stage because you're in the middle of a cemetery and you already got that dark ambiance, and you got Victor and Fritz who are grave robbing, stealing body parts from corpses. So it's already incredibly dark for its time. I love all that. And I also like James Whale's little sensibility with his humor in this movie that he has peppered all throughout, which I thought was pretty nice as well. And of course, the overall makeup design of the Frankenstein monster is iconic. It's fantastic. The whole flat top with the electric bolts, and the whole black with the boots. It's the iconic look of Frankenstein. That's the image we know of Frankenstein is from this film. Uh, so yeah, those are basically my thoughts on Frankenstein. Of course, this movie is a perfect 10. This movie is fantastic. It's a much better watch than Dracula. It's better directed than Dracula, more entertaining than Dracula, and just a much more interesting movie slash story than Dracula. Not taking anything away from Dracula, Frankenstein is just an overall better put together movie with just a much more interesting character, to me at least. So yes, perfect 10 for Frankenstein, the original Frankenstein. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Like the video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.